Welcome to Art with Alison. Today we'll be discussing color temperature and how that applies to still life. Welcome back. Today we're going to go back to the sphere. Oh no, more circles. I'll cover my paper in value. Smear it. Do my quick line of action and general gesture of the shape. Now I'm also, let's do this right here. I'm also going to do the gradient. And it's going to be a little bit extra this time. Do a line down the middle first. And let's do darkest darks up at the top to lightest lights. Darks. Okay, now sections, do no light, shadow, shadow edge, middle tone, strong light, highlight, general kind of concept. Okay. From that, now I'm going to draw the sphere. And actually, what am I doing? Eraser first. Lightest lights. Go for the highlight range first. Also looking at the page and the paper. Create the background. Now I'm going to use the charcoal. I'm going to draw. Just do a quick tonal study, same as the first sphere we were introduced to, very first, but we're going to add an extra layer of color onto it. First, I just want to establish this value, and then we're going to add some color to it. And what does that mean? What does warm and cool mean in the realm of art? So, darkest darks, shadow, okay, let's get some reflected light, just a splash, just to help things out. Let's get this light, and then let's see, we'll kind of let the side kind of fall away. Let's do my shadow. Okay, we're just very generalized, but again, tonally, this is just a sphere in space for the most part. Now I'm going to add color. We're going to talk about the concepts of warm and cool and color temperature. What does warm and cool mean? What does color temperature mean? Now let me actually get some proper blue and some proper red to discuss that. So, cool, blue, warm, red. Really, I mean, theoretically, it's almost like yellowish red, but it's kind of an orangish sort of sunlight. There is a whole formula that can be applied to this. Just as much as we have this formula, we also have a formula for color temperature. With that in mind, I'm going to put in my little ranges so that we can kind of keep this track. No light, shadow, shadow, edge, middle tone, it's a little bit lighter, and reflected light. We got our strong light. Let me erase this and make it a little bit lighter for us. Come on, pencils. Strong light, highlight. Now I'm going to divvy it up. We're going to get a little crazy. It's going to get a little confusing. Basically, we are creatures that live on Earth that have a certain distance from the sun that allows for a certain type of sunlight and radiation to come through the atmosphere. And so what does that mean? How does that affect what we see, right? So the temperature of light from the sun is warm, theoretically, in the sense of, high noon, and what that means. So let's see. Sorry, my brain's like, wait, there's more shadows, there's more edges. Color temperature is a completely different element to tone. We're now going to think about the concept of warmth and cool. The sunlight is warm. A moonlight is cool. When we have a bright summer sunny day, the light and the highlights are warm. There's warm light on our faces. The shadows that are cast from a bright sunny day are cool. There's blue in them. If you actually really look, you can actually see there's tinges of blue in it. In a night moonscape, when you have cool light on you, a bright full moon, the shadows are actually red. And that's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. If you really, really look, you'll see that in a moonscape, there's redness in the shadows. Kind of gets a little more complex and confusing, but I'm gonna try and keep it going. So with that, we basically, if the light that is coming down, this is really, we're like talking about physics. The light that's coming down onto an object is warm. Then the highlight itself, I keep grabbing these, the highlight itself is going to be cool. And what happens is this sort of flip-flopping. So it becomes cooler. It has this varying effect that if you were to paint something and adding paint and you wanted to make something darker or add something in shadow and light, initially people think, oh, just add some white to make it lighter and I'll just add some black to make it darker for shadows. That's not enough. It will literally look flat. Our brains and our eyes see depth of color beyond just shadow and light, and so we need to consider that when we're rendering. So this flip-flopping that happens, we have the warm light, we have a cool highlight, which I will then render on the sphere as well. I'm just gonna kind of kiss it, maybe even get a lighter tonal blue. I'm just gonna kind of give it a light blue level element to it. The strong light is now warm. It's a flip-flopping that's happening. So with that, I'm going to now come back and add my warmth to the strong light, the region that I know is strong light. Flipping back, middle tone, cool. Now I'm going to come back and add cool to my middle tones on this page. What does that mean? Where are those? This helps us, the more that we can see these regions, the more we can break them out and discern them on the object we're studying, and also just in our piece, being able to recognize with logic, using knowledge, not just relying on what a photograph tells you. We've done middle tone and reflected light, roughly, and actually here, let me start to add that too, because it's also with the cast shadow. We're now moving up to shadow edge. Tonally, there's a shadow edge. Now that's just along the shadow, right? That's just along the shadow. Kind of leaves this, which is also right along the shadow and on the outer part of it. The shadow edge is not just on the inner part, but also on the outer. So it's literally the inner part and outer part of an edge of the shadow, not just on one side. Now we've come to the shadow, and I will add the blue to that. Now you can see, as I add the blue to this, And it's kind of trippy at first. It's this weird banding. You're like, what is this? This is so weird. What are you talking about? Why is this? What? Colors. It can be confusing, it's for sure. But this is a basic underlying tonal reference that you can use when it comes to rendering an object in space. I can now take this and add any local color I want to it. So I'm going to add, actually, just to make it really pop. What is local color? Local color means the color of an object without any color lighting information on it to change it or affect it. So basically, an orange is an orange regardless of, is the color orange regardless of what type of light is on it. But obviously when we have color temperature, light temperature, it's going to change this sort of gradient. But its actual color is orange. But then there's this sort of, there'll be regions of it being warmer and regions of it being cooler and all of that. And so I'm going to now, we have this basic structure. Theoretically, I can just, this one's actually not that good. Let's do a little bit of scrubbing first here. It's too new. I may have to pop up some of the other colors, but I'm making a yellow-orange sphere that should theoretically start to become more voluminous based on the color temperature. And so these regions of tone can kind of it's confusing. It takes practice to see and understand and to utilize, especially in painting. But this is why when you look at a master painting, there's blue in areas that you would be like, but what? Why is there blue there? Or there's warmth or red in other spots, and like say a shadow, if it's like a night moonscape. So that type of stuff is on purpose. It's actually intentionally placed in there. This is with intentional knowledge of just the way that light behaves, the color of light, and the way that our eyes perceive that visual information. So I know it's kind of weird and bandy, it's sort of strange at first, but this is basically, get a little bit more. If you were to do a really hyper, exaggerated version of an orange ball in light in space, these regions are not, this is confusing. This is like what? This no light, here's the highlight. You can see it's cool. We got the strong light, which is kind of a bit warmer. I need to add a little bit of white to it just to cool it down, just to make it not so bright. But this idea of this flip-flopping again is something that we can take and apply into drawing an actual bowl of fruit or anything really, anything that requires color. You should be thinking about color temperature first and not just the local color. Local color is important, but also the temperature of the light is also just as important. And so just as well, if you have a warm light, you're gonna have cool shadows. And this is sort of simplified, formula. If you have cool light, you're gonna have warm shadows. So that it's just a simplified version, but then you can also, theoretically, it can be flipped, as long as you have that baseline, you can know where to go within that up and down range. And this is why keeping this key is so important. It really helps to keep you in alignment and remind you where to go on, what region am I working in? Okay, I'm middle tone. Okay, it's cool. Okay, and so then you're able to kind of stay, and so it doesn't get too muddled and too muddy. But with this is sort of our introduction to color temperature. And we're now going to go and do a setup in our little cardboard box with some fruit and see if we can apply this concept with local color and color temperature. Awesome. Yay. Now we stop. It's trippy to see it on the feedback. It's like, oh yeah. Think about my composition. So I'm initially doing my quick line of action. Now I'm gonna do, let's see who, my dominant is my orange. Then I've got this like lime right here, a lemon. It's coming One out there. Got the banana. So I'm just drawing my quick, this is all the same foundational concepts. I'm just drawing the underlying, I'm giving myself notes where I want things to be. And later in another episode, we will discuss composition and composing on a page and all of that as well. So don't worry, we'll be definitely covering all those topics. Need my eraser. Needed eraser. Now I'm looking at where is the lightest lights, highlights, the brightest highlights. For me, it's sort of on this orange first. Let's see. Then a little bit on this lemon. And then now the banana. And then this banana. And again, if someone were to walk in and all they were to see is this drawing, this point right here, they would be like, what? What is that? That's so weird. And that's a good thing. It shouldn't make sense. This should be very, very strange and abstract right now. I don't want a lot of detail. I'm just trying to see the overall abstract forms. And when I say abstract, I'm saying I'm not looking at it and going, oh, that's an orange. Oh, that's a banana. Oh, my brain is saying, I see this circle shape next to this other longer shape. I'm seeing light and shadow patterns. I'm seeing the way the relationships and what's happening. And so my eye, where it's getting pulled to. So first thing is I'm seeing is the orange is that main dominant shape. And then it's the lemon, and sort of then you go into the bananas. And so I'm kind of, it's order of operations. It's this constant sort of flow of, paying attention to what do I start with first? First, we get our underlying forms. Then we start to think about the light. Now I'm going to think about this. I'm going to do a tonal layer first. I'm going to decide the color, or not the color, I'm going to decide, draft out basically the form and how it behaves in light. Very similar to this underpainting technique. Whoops, whoops, whoops. And then, this is the problem I'm always dropping. Constantly dropping my stuff. Is that once I get this stuff, the tonal stuff rendered, then I'm going to add the local color. And we'll kind of take that, and then I'll add in our color temperature as well. So it's a layered process. As you see, I don't like the idea of sitting down and drawing one thing until it's fully rendered, and then moving on to the page and drawing that thing until it's fully rendered. It just gets so disjointed, and it's so inconsistent. It's just not consistent. There's just not a feeling of cohesion. And so if you can move and draw with everything all at once, collectively lifting it as each layer together, nothing is overdone more than the other, that you're going to have a more genuine experience. It's just going to feel like it's all was worked on together, as opposed to sort of, I did some and then I waited a week and I came back to it. Energetically, it just looks different. You could tell, it just doesn't feel like it was done on the same day. And that's the type of stuff too, that whether or not we're conscious of it, the viewer is subconsciously going to read everything that you're doing on this page. Because it's a self-portrait, we literally are putting in our thoughts and our feelings when I'm drawing. Anything that if you're feeling insecure or unsure or awkward, that comes through too. So that's why I really hope to be able to convey the concept of being confident, of being unafraid to potentially make mistakes. And I use that in air quotes because I really prefer the idea of what I call course correcting. It's not about oh no, we're gonna crash, and then you're just oh well, and you just crash. It's well, course correct. If you see that there's something not working, we can move on. You can kind of keep going. You don't have to commit to it and stay on that course and be oh, I guess we're just gonna have to crash. No, as long as you're able to acknowledge it and say, you know what, I think there's some stuff to fix or work on or improve upon, then that's awesome. It's not a pass or fail idea. This is really, when we're drawing and we're putting things down on paper, it's a form of communication saying, what I see and understand is, and then that is translated. And so if someone is new to art and they're struggling to understand what they see, it's just showing that they don't have a full understanding. That's okay. You can't expect someone who just learned a language to be fluent and to start writing poetry and writing songs and really complex concepts. You have to start with the basics. You have to start with the ABCs. Start with the foundational form, foundational ideas first, and then we can move on to higher concept, higher ways of thinking. But without these foundational steps, it's just, you know, how would you expect to know these things? You can't, that's silly. So I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to expect to be fluent in art, or that I should be able to know how to draw a certain way just because, or that those that are really good at it, that they just woke up one day and it just magically happened. It's a lot of practice, a lot of paper that probably you don't see, and a lot of stuff they didn't show off. For me, this is miles and miles and miles of paper, thousands and thousands of hours of drawing, stacks and stacks of sketchbooks to be able to draw this quickly. And what would look like effortlessly is really actually, you know, a lot of effort. My brain is considering and thinking about a lot of things while I'm drawing. I'm not just sort of taking a back seat and vacationing. It's this very high level functioning. My brain is processing a lot of information as I'm doing this. I'm also learning, I've learned to filter out information so I don't pay attention to everything and feel that I have to put everything in. And that's where you'll see me doing my squints, my little squinty eyes, and sort of like, why is she giving me the dirty, hairy face? And it's like, I'm not. I'm trying to eliminate information. And they do say that, you know, you shouldn't squint too much because it put you in a bad mood. So I try not to do it too much, but it's good to have the little plastic things, the little sunglass material that I'll bring in, I can show in the next episode, of ways to eliminate that detail. So I got to get this lime in order. Where's the stem? Here it is. Kind of separate that out. No, I'm sort of making decisions on detail. I'm sort of designating my regions now. I'm going to come back with a local color in just a minute. But I just wanted to kind of, I'm putting in my darks, and I'm kind of deciding on the composition as a whole first before I commit to color. And that's something too, the old masters, you weren't even allowed to pick up paint and color until you could master drawing. You literally had to be a master drawer first, which I am, in order to be allowed to, you know, mix paints and then do the color wheel. And then, like, there's a lot of layers of study that has to be applied. You have to know a lot of things first in the sense of rendering and shape and form and composition before you could even think about adding the next layer of color onto it. Sort of layer of difficulty is then adding that color composition. So here I'm just giving my shadows. I'm kind of breaking it out a little bit. You see my little lemon's got a little bit of a shadow. And then it's actually a bit of a cavity. Whoops, I've got that. So I've kind of got a general-ish feel of what's happening. Might give a little bit more of shadow of the bananas, but whatever. Okay, so we've got this. I'm now going to start to add some tone, like local color. So yellow, and do I have a creamier yellow? Yes, I do. Two different kinds of yellows. Got more of a lemon yellow and more of a, actually no, it's about the same, just kind of slightly one sturdier. But I'm going to just gently, I'm just dragging this. And of course, you know, with fine charcoal, it's pretty soft, it's easily moved. So there's a fine balance of how much value and medium I can actually put on the paper before it just is like, no, it literally will just start to fall off. So I have to kind of be careful with how much I'm actually pushing on the paper with the medium. Now I'm going to do this. And this is an idea too, an opportunity to talk about, here we go, this is more of a sunny yellow, the lemony yellow. Chroma, the idea of chroma, what does that mean? Saturation of color. It means how vibrant and vivid is the color. Is it really sort of a pale yellow like the banana? Or is it more of a striking, vibrant yellow, sunny yellow like this lemon? And so those are ideas too that you can think about in the contrast idea of colors. And I think I want this green instead. It's a little bit not so dark. This green, weirdly enough, I'm going to kind of use on the banana. And this is when we say local color. This is literally, I'm just coloring in and just being like a flat color of green, a flat color of yellow. It's got the tone on it, but I'm going to come back in a minute and we'll add our color temperature. But I just want you to see, what does local color mean first? This is what local color means. This is the idea of an orange in shadow and value. But with this alone, if I just have orange and lemon and lime and bananas with light and dark and black and white, like this should be enough. But it's not. It doesn't feel, it feels flat, right? Like it's not a fully voluminous picture. There's just not enough information. It is literally, yeah, there's shadows and there's light, but that's not the full story. And so that's what the color temperature kind of comes in. Here I'm adding a little bit more, a little bit more darker green. Sorry, Reed. That's okay. See how I'm again using the sides, and I'm using this side. And then maybe there's a hair of that here. I'm just kind of looking. I'm looking, once I have one color or one thing in my hand, I just try to see where else is it on the page, and where else can I add it? And so I'm always kind of experimenting and dancing around on the palette. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna add this. We got our yellows. Let's do a designate. Let's designate the this to be blue, just to kind of push things and be a little weird. Make the ground blue. So again, with our knowledge of science and math and all these other things, these elements, we can take this formula and apply it. It does not have to be a fixed concept. I can change the color of anything on this piece. I don't have to, the lemons don't have to be yellow. The bananas, you know what I mean? Everything can change. That's in itself, once you have that power of understanding of how to use the material, you can really, so I'm just trying to find an orange that's less problematic. It's sort of chalky. Orange, be more orange, please. It is so orange based on my eyes. So I'm just trying to add a little bit more chroma. I'm giving it more intensity, more saturation of color. In Photoshop, it's like desaturate to make it black and white, or saturate. You can really amp that color up, right? So that's what I've done. I'm gonna do a little bit here, the lime needs a little bit of attention. There's a little bit of white or yellow right here. So, all right, we've got color temperature. We've got the local color. I'm now going to add my color temperature. And we've got tonal concept, but it's pretty minimal. If this was enough, then we could say, okay, we're done. Go home now. But it's not. It's like that's just the sort of the base. You can see it's just not quite finished. There's just a flatness to it that exists, that we want to give it that sense of depth. And so again, I'm going to do my color temperature. Now I have to think in my brain. Let's do set down, red, blue. Let's do maybe a light pink just to have, okay. Now let's think about our highlights. Highlights, where are you? Let's get some white. Highlights, where's my highlights? Here we go, highlight. This chalk is way too waxy. Sorry about that. Here we go. There, that's better. Sometimes the Conti crayons or whatever, they get too waxy. I need it to be a little bit more chalky. So I'm adding highlights. I'm just kind of coming back in with some of the white because the local color took it down. So I'm just adding that in to then, of course, add a little bit of blue to it because I'm pretending that the light source is warm. So with that in mind, cool highlights. Now, warm, strong light. It's very delicate. And I'm gonna see, where do I see that? Where is my strong light? It's kind of here. Let's see. And then it's kind of there. And this is arbitrary too. This is not a fixed concept of like, no, it's only there and that's it. You know, it's what do you see it as? That's the beauty of, I think, creating, is that we are all individuals and we all see the world literally differently. Some people need glasses. You know, some people are colorblind. Like we know one person sees the world the same as another person. We all are unique. And with that in mind, that means that what you see and create is different. and amazing and should be celebrated. And so I think that people get lost in that and think that, oh, what do I have to say? What do I know? Well, you're you. That's enough. That's awesome. That's enough. So I just did a strong light pass. And so here, you know what? Let's keep ourselves organized because I'm going to get myself confused if I don't create my key. Again, let's do our key. We'll just kind of do a quick little key. I'm going to do it backwards, a little darkest darks to lightest lights. And this is something that you could be practicing as well, this idea of darkest darks to lightest lights gradient. This could be something that you just sit down and, you know, watch TV and kind of space out and just hang out and do this over and over again fill a page with gradient. Fill a page with hatching. Find what's comfortable for you. Find what's this technique that works best for you and rendering, and then use that. You know, and then try different techniques. There's a whole world of that. You just don't have to limit yourself. I feel like that's the key. So here I'm just going to kind of break out my little regions. Now I'm also going to do my color temperature. It's so confusing. Blue. Where's my light? Okay, light blue. Highlight. Strong light. Middle tone. That's kind of one middle tone. Middle tone. Shadow's edge. Shadow. So with that, it just keeps us, and of course the no light is the only time where it's like solid black. There is no concept of temperature at that point. Okay, so I did my highlight. I've done highlight. I've done strong light. Now we need to go into middle tone / under reflected light. Where is my middle tone? Where is my middle tone? Oh, the elusive middle tone. Here we go. And again, I'm on the side. Like, do I have to do it with pencil like this? I'm not signing a document. So I want to make sure that I'm using the full side of the chalk. It gives me a little bit more control. I just have more ability to cover more surface area in a quicker, consistent manner. Now, let's see, I'm just looking. It's finding my other tones. Where's my middle tone? There's another one on here. You see already how it's starting to become more voluminous? How it's already, you know, it's like rainbowy. It's kind of weird, but I'll come back and we'll punch back some of the other colors, the proper local color, but it's this layering. Without it, it becomes flat. This is the stuff that when people see your artwork, they're going to be like, man, look at that color. It's just so colorful. And it's because you're being conscientious of the actual temperature of the light, the temperature of the color of the light, and the shadows and the form as it falls away. Okay, so we've got our middle tone. I need to do my shadow edge. Shadow edge, where are you? Where are you, shadow edge? Okay, I'm trying to see. Like here. Let's see, shadow edge, you're here. And sometimes you can overlap it. Like I had blue there, now I'm coming back and on top of it, adding a little bit of the red. So there's not like you have to designate the regions and be like, no, I can't cover it. There's this sort of play back and forth, but it's this awareness of that flow of tone. And as that changes the color, it actually changes the color of the light of the form. So I'm just let's see, shadow. It's like, why would you be putting pink on a banana? But that's part of giving it this, it's not just yellow. I think that's the thing is that people get confused about, is that when they're painting, oh, I'm going to paint a banana, so they just get the yellow and then they get black and white. And they're like, that should be enough. And it really, as you're seeing, it's not enough. There's definitely something missing. And I think that's the key, is just being able to recognize that. So I need some more charcoal because I see a shadow, this intersecting with the orange, creating a shadow. And then this is creating a shadow. Then this. So I'm now just kind of, I'm redefining my regions, sharpening my spots of separating out certain areas from each other. Let's see this guy too. I'm gonna pop this side out, and you can see again this crossing of the T. Crossing the T. Let's do the lime is in front of the orange. Let's do that. So that just says that now the lime is in front, and then this lemon is behind this orange. These are the things that are literally creating this sense of depth, this voluminous, what's in front of what, this hierarchy in a sense of what's closest to the camera, what's closest to the viewer. So let's see, now I'm kind of just tightening up the details a little bit. I'm kind of just sharpening certain spots so that then when I do come back with my shadows, it's a little bit more distinct. It's not so nebulous and sort of vague. So I just want to pop that out a little bit, and we'll kind of make the little scrumbly thing in the brown so it connects. Let's see, what else do we need? I feel like this is darker here. Separate out that banana from the other banana, and then this and that one. And then theoretically, let's see, might want to make this darker. Even though it's not true in the reference, I'm going to make it so that way it makes this stuff pop out a little bit more. These are choices I'm making for the piece itself to work. So there we go. Awesome. Everything good? We're good? Okay. There we go. So now, where's that light? Where's that shadow? Here's the shadow. And where does it terminate? Okay, comes out here. And then this guy, where does he go? Orange. Okay. You see already it's starting to become more of a colorful shapes. There's color, there's more vibrance, there's more volume in that way. Now I'm going to do my final shadow. Cool shadows. Dark. Let's see, this is in shadow. See, now it sort of literally just becomes order of operations. You just work your way down the line. And then it's like we'll reduce the feelings of like shame or feeling like I didn't do a good job. It's not about that. It's about just, what did you see? What do you understand? What caught your eye? What made you go, ooh, that's interesting. I think I want to draw that. That's the type of stuff that if you can keep track of that, you're going to have a more genuine creation. You're going to have a more honest experience of what you're seeing. If you can have joy in it and not be so frustrated with it not being the way you're expecting the outcome to be, you're more likely to have an honest and real drawing that's just going to evoke emotion. People are going to be like, whoa, look at that. You were having fun when you created that. That's the key, is finding joy. If you can be joyful and enjoy the process and not be so quick to be hard on yourself, it's going to read. You know, you want to have fun. It's not supposed to be so serious. They make it, you think it's supposed to be so serious, but it's not. It should be way more fun and approachable than what they want you to believe. So now I'm pretty much wrapping it up. As you can see, we've kind of covered a bunch. I mean, it's very vibrant colors, but this banana, like, what'd you think? You'd be like, why is there so many colors in this banana? But yet, without it, it's like, I can already see in the feedback, without it, it becomes flat. That flatness is boring. It's just not enough. Our brains and our eyes see a lot more depth in color than we logically understand. So the more you can logically understand it, the more you can then interpret it and manipulate it and make decisions to omit or add based on what you want the story to be told. Like old masters did not have photographs, you know, they had camera obscura. They had things, you know, a big box with a hole that would project the image onto a light upside down, onto a canvas or whatever, upside down, and they would draw it upside down. They had that, but that was a tool, it was a production tool to get it done quick because it was time to like render everything by eye. But you still need to be able to do it. You still need to be able to draw and render. It's just a reference, it's just a tool. So if you can understand why the things are the way they are, then you can manipulate it and change it based on your understanding. So like putting shadows in a courtyard, they don't have to sit there and wait until the shadows are just right and then draw it. They can create the drawing of the image of the buildings, and with their knowledge of shadows and light can then adjust it based on whatever time of day they want it to be. Then you can just make decisions, say, I think I want it to be like this. So that's where we can then, that's what they say, artistic license. So this color temperature, we are exploring warm and cool, local color, tonal ranges. It's some pretty intense, heavy stuff. Not easy. Definitely not something that you just be like, wake up one day and be like, oh yeah, I get it. This is stuff that takes time to practice. Takes time to see. But the more that you're able to see it and understand it, the more you're going to be able to then perceive it out when you're trying to draw something new and something that you can create and have fun with it. Like I can never stop. There's always something more that can be done. So with that, today, color temperature.